Welcome back to part two. Jon Newsome still here. I'm still here, just about. We both had some fairly hard-hitting things to say about the state of Sheffield football in part one. We're going to top and tail that in a minute. There's also a guy here called Ashley Greenwood who's had the vision to start something entirely new off in Sheffield football terms, a new club called Sheffield City FC. And a very interesting thing that he's promoting in terms of the wearing of headgear in the game. This is a guy that headed a lot of footballs in Jon Newsome, and he will have a view on that when we discuss that with Ashley over there, who had his brainchild during the pandemic lockdown, put it to good use, dreamed this up, and has got people actually pressing the buttons and working it all out. Meantime, just finally on Sheffield United, I hope you saw what we said in part one. If not, you can catch up on my YouTube channel later. Not being judged on results, Paul Heckingbottom, not by the club, said the chief executive at Sheffield United today, but the fans will judge a manager on results. So that makes it all the stranger, John, for me. What else can they judge a manager on?
How many times you hear that cliche, we're in a results business?
Yeah.
How many times, we are in a results business, and that's what it is. And, I look at some of the young lads now who play under 23s football, and one of the things about getting them out on loan and playing non-league football, that kind of thing, is because those 3 points really matter.
Yeah.
When you're 1-0 up and it's the 89th minute and you get that one off the line and smash your face in on the post, or and there's 300 watching it matters, and you've got to get that into the players that it does matter, and then for a chief exec to come out and say, actually, you're not going to be judged on that. I find it baffling.
I can understand a long-term strategy if there's a long-term strategy. I don't think they discuss it.
What's a long-term strategy? A long-term strategy is to win football matches.
It's to get results long-term.
It's to win football matches.
And to develop players, I can understand. I mean, but Paul Heckingbottom has been developing players in the academy, but as manager, he's a step now away from that. He's a good guy, though. Look, wish him all the very best. I hope that Sheffield United fans get behind him. I'm absolutely sure that they will. He deserves that, because whatever criticism has come, it's not criticism of him. He's in an extremely difficult position. I hope it goes well for him. I think he will judge himself on results.
Of course he will. Of course he will,
Yeah.
And I don't know Stuart McCall that well. Met him a couple of times, but Jack Lester, know Jack well. Wish him all the best, as much as a Sheffield Wednesday supporter can wish him all the best. But it's not as we say, it's not an easy job, is it? No football job is.
Well, they're all good football people. Let's hope it goes well. And you touched on something which really applies to Sheffield Wednesday just then when you talked about players going out on loan and playing proper football. One of the things that I think Depon Chansiri has corrected at Sheffield Wednesday, he's allowed several players to go out on loan. He's on subsidised wages, Wednesday subsidising the wages, which he's previously not been prepared to do. And I think he's seeing a bit of benefit. I look at one of them, Kieran Brennan, showing the benefit and really slotted into the team well, John.
Yeah. I mean, he's got good plaudits, hasn't he? But that's what young players have to do. For me, the whole structure of football is wrong with the under-23 system. I understand why on paper it was developed and devised, and I think if you're at Man City, Man United, Liverpool, it's fantastic because you're playing against the elite, and they're playing in the Champions League elite, and etc. But for the rest of them, I think it's a nonsense. I really do. I think if we went back to reserve team football, where I've had so many conversations where I've sat probably in a pub or in a golf club with ex-footballers, and we've chewed the cud about it and said, I remember blah blah blah. I remember getting beat 6 at Leicester when I was about 17, and sitting in the bath after the game and thinking, I'm not good enough for this. And the following day, the coach took us out and started doing work on what I'd done wrong. And I'm 51 now. I can still remember that.
Yeah, made a mark, made an impression.
Made a mark, made an impression. Getting too tight, not seeing the ball, not getting low enough, etc., etc., etc. That wouldn't have happened playing against a lad of my own age.
No.
Because that lad's still learning the game as well.
Yeah.
It's that 30, 32-year-old,
Old
been
pros.
round the block, old pro,
Yeah.
who's wildly, and knows the game inside out, and he's playing against a young whippersnapper, and
The good old Central League you're talking about.
Central League, Pontins
Yeah.
League, when we
Yeah.
won it, we actually won it at Sheffield Wednesday. But yeah,
Ashley here is a Sheffield Wednesday supporter for his sins. I don't know if for his sins is the right way of putting it, but he's come up with a great idea for football, to help footballers, to help everybody who wants to have an involvement in football, whether they've got a level of ability or not, to actually play the game and to coach the game. We'll come to that in a moment. Chris Wilder at Middlesbrough. He must be, I mean, you know him well. First and foremost, although he's started with a draw and a defeat in home games, he must just be exhilarated just to be back doing the job.
yeah, I think so. I think he's been out 6 months, 7 months. You know what I mean? Which I think was long enough. There's other managers been out longer than him, but yeah, I think he was itching. He was definitely itching to get back in, and I think it's a good fit. I think they were all itching to get back in. Nilly was the
Alan
same,
Hill,
and
Matt Prestridge.
yeah, and he's gone in there. I've been at the last couple of games. John Hendry, who I know from Leeds. I work on match days sometimes at Leeds, and I see John Hendry there, and he works at the Riverside on match days, and he pulled me on Saturday and again on Tuesday and said, "This is like the best football that we've seen all season," and I just think that the kind of high tempo game that Chris is wanting them to play. First off, they've been fantastic, and I think they've just probably run out of legs a little bit. I think they ran out of legs on Saturday, and they ran out of legs a little bit on Tuesday. So, the fitness levels need to improve. He's asking them to go and press and play this high tempo game. But he's been there, 2 weeks? He'll get some bodies in, I'm sure. And
I think Middlesbrough fans will forgive the odd bad result if they see good football. I mean, I've had that impression going up there over the years. I remember going regularly for the BBC to watch the Juninho and Ravanelli team. Got relegated, incredibly. Fans loved it. Whereas Aitor Karanka had a reasonable amount of success there. They hated the football. They did under Pulis as well. So I think Boro fans want to see that sort of football.
I think there's some very similarities between the cities in terms of the old steelworks engineering. That's gone. They're honest, genuine people. They buy into the football club, a bit like the Wednesday United fans have as well. So I think he's got that connection there already. And of them all, they want to see effort and positivity, and Chris brings that in abundance, doesn't he, really?
Yeah, can see it working, really can. James Gregg's roundups coming up, spreading the net across the city. Time to bring in Ashley Greenwood, though. Sheffield City FC, and this was a brainchild of yours during lockdown. Yeah. How did that idea come to you? Because you're somebody you'd like to have played football, but you couldn't. Is that right?
Yeah, I was never allowed to play it due to a medical condition that I've got, hypoglycemia. And
what is that exactly?
It's basically opposite to a diabetic. So a diabetic blood and sugar levels are sky high. Mine can go sometimes too low. So I was sort of wrapped up in cotton wool when I was a child, and then things just progressed. I went to college to study sport and leisure at the time, and then went back to uni, obtained a degree, and set up my own football school. And at the point, we were sort of losing kids to competitive football teams. And I had the grand idea in developing club when first lockdown came, and with high old restrictions and rules and regulations what were in place, we produced 2 under-8 football teams, which, to be fair, I didn't think were bad going when obviously everything were up in air. So as times progressed, I wanted more. I wanted to obviously put like an infrastructure in place, put a development plan in place, and then the last lockdown, this is where the club grew and kicked on. So we sort of grew from 2 football teams at a junior level to in total 12, which, to be fair, weren't really bad going when people look and sit back and think about it.
And you'll accept all ages and abilities?
Yeah. So obviously, like at a junior level, for example, I did my research because I didn't think at the time, kids should sort of turn up, have a trial. The simple fact is, an 8-year-old, it's not really fair, if that makes sense. So what I sort of put in the club were like a tier system. So for example, if them what I've never played before, put them in beginner. Then what are like off and off, intermediate, and then what are advanced, sort of put them at top, and then there's like that pathway in where players can come through. Obviously, sort of do a session suitable to their capability, and then sort of progress their talent from there, really.
Well, this point of interest really attracted me to this conversation is that you've partnered with a United States team called Pittsburgh City United, which donates 50% of its profits to Alzheimer's.
Yeah, yeah.
And they make all their players, every age, wear protective headgear. And I think you're going to duplicate that, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah. So how it come about, it was through LinkedIn. He sent me a message, the owner Michael, and we just got talking like anybody else would, and he said, what do you think to a partnership? So at first, I thought it was a bit of a con at first because you sort of get a bit wary, don't you? Yeah. And then one thing led to another, and he went, let's go for it. So we fly out in January to sort of the legal side out of it, and then we just sort of progress everything from there. So he's going to come over here in July, August time, and sort of take everything from there.
Okay, well, let's just see a video clip now from Pittsburgh and players demonstrating that headgear.
I think we are the first team to use the headgear, to prevent us from having a concussion and all that in soccer, because when they grow old, they're going to feel it. So, but now we have something to protect us while playing soccer. So I really appreciate that, and I love that. Being the first team to use it, I think in the whole world, so it's really awesome.
The great thing watching that is that it need not necessarily alter the game a great deal, Jon Newsome, because there's a great debate and controversy about the damage that heading can do to the brain, and particularly affect people in later life. There have been sadly far too many examples. But with that absorbent material, you're still going to get, I was worried, taking heading out of the game is going to materially change. How do you see that John? Do you see that being workable, that sort of headgear, as somebody who headed the ball a lot?
I think it's a natural progression for me, Alan.
Yeah.
I do. I really do. I think it's something that will, in time, change the face of football. I think it will come in and protect you. I think there's incentives now to try and cut down heading in training and that kind of thing. We used to do it. The times I've been out, and Sheffield Wednesday when I was a kid coming through as an apprentice, and McKenna had got Kevin Pressman smashing balls 100 foot high, and you were under them and heading them back, and you saw stars, and you got one wrong and it bushed your nose, and you were out there for half an hour, 40 minutes. And
does that concern you now? Worry you at all? The impact of it?
I've had this conversation, to be honest with you. I am part of the PFA do surveys. And so a few years ago they were doing knee and ankle injuries, which I finished with my knee, but I'd also damaged my ankle playing quite badly. And then subsequently, because of the brain injury and the connection with Alzheimer's, etc., dementia, they're now doing a survey on that. So I'm part of that PFA survey. Does it worry me? I'd be lying if I said it didn't, in all honesty. But would I change anything? Not in a million years. No. I think that's the biggest thing for me.
And the great thing as well, that would protect with clash of heads as well.
I think if anything, looking at that piece of apparatus there, I think the only thing that it probably doesn't protect you for is the one where you head it wrong.
Yeah.
And the one where we were always taught to, if you head the ball on your forehead, which is the hardest part, that it won't hurt.
Yeah, whereas if it's up
but
here,
when you get it wrong, you miss time and it hits you there. That's when you started seeing the birds and the stars, and a little bit all over the place.
Yes,
so
good incentive to get the technique right.
Absolutely, but in a fast-paced game, when sometimes you're trying to get over the top of centre forward, you can't always get your forehead on it, but you need to get something on it, and so maybe that gets developed into a full head protection, or I don't know. I think there'll be a lot. Like I say, I think there's a long road to go down.
We said off air, didn't we? Football's not without examples. I think you Ashley, you mentioned Miguel Liera. You're a Wednesday fan, and you mentioned Petr Cech.
Yeah.
And Headgear's been successfully worn, but there must be many more examples as well.
Well, Jimenez Raúl Jimenez at Wolves obviously sustained that really bad head injury. You read interviews that he was close to losing his life, etc. And now wears a headband to protect himself. And if it can be done for that, you then scratch your head, don't you, and think,
why not one more wide? It's a bit like helmets being worn in cricket, by batsmen.
Yeah.
It's now, nobody would ever think in a first-class game now to go to the wicket without a helmet. Shin pads.
Now mandatory that you have to wear shin pads.
Yes.
I remember, again, apprentice Sheffield Wednesday, we signed Tony Galvin.
A winger.
Winger, socks round his ankles. Yes. His shins were just a milieu of scars. You know what I mean? Where he got whacked and cuts, but he never had any shin pads on.
Why could he not be persuaded? He just thought it
didn't feel comfortable.
Right.
But he'd have to wear them now, wouldn't he? And it'll be the same thing. You'll get pushbacks, won't you? You'll get football saying, centre halves don't like wearing them, they're uncomfortable, etc. Like the batsman probably did. Yeah. But in time, it'll become skiing. Yeah. My son goes skiing, and he cannot believe that when the few times I went skiing, you didn't wear a helmet, Dad.
No.
Because everybody wears a helmet now.
Yeah.
But after Michael Schumacher's incident, I think it was.
It's a similar thing, John. Yeah. It's going to be a similar thing. A bit like we'll all be wearing replica shirts when we go and support our teams, one day. No, I can't get him started on that. He's hilarious on the wearing of Do you wear a replica shirt?
No.
Right. Okay. You're
That's
enjoying
that one,
Yeah. Okay. So, Ashley. You're going to introduce that here. It sounds thoroughly common sense to me. Look, Sheffield's got loads of football teams at non-league level. It's got Handsworth, Sheffield and Hallam. You're not looking to usurp or overtake any of those, or are you?
Well, our ambition is to do what Wimbledon did. Sort of progress through leagues and get to status and standard that they did. I know it's going to take a lot of hard work and a lot of time and a lot of effort, but it's there for taking. They've proven that anybody can do it, so we're just going to follow the same suit with it.
Try and get in the league.
Yeah,
eventually.
That's the main aim. Yeah.
Okay, right. Oh, I wish you luck with that. There's a long way to go, but there's nothing wrong with being ambitious. And you've got a network now where you had the idea, but you've got loads of people sort of implementing it for you. Yeah. And what about, just finally on this, before we go to James Gregg's roundup, what about funding? Where are you getting that from?
Well, at the minute we've got a good sponsorship deal with Champs, the sports bar on Headgear Road. They're sort of like senior to first team, and we've just sort of picked up other sponsors for like us under 8s, under 9s, 10s and so on. We've got fundraising activities happening, and we've got funding bids and funding grants coming. So it's sort of budgeting really.
Great stuff. Okay, well, let's find out what's going on in the wider world. Sometimes he's in the studio. Sadly, he won't be buying either John or I a pint later this evening. He's copped out, but from some remote location where he's no doubt being far better remunerated than he would be here. Here's James Gregg.
Thank you very much indeed, Biggsy. Good that I'm not there with the pair of you tonight. However, I'll leave a couple in the pump for you across the road. How's that sound? Anyway, we'll start our roundup with the Sheffield Sharks. And they are just starting their season. They are playing the Newcastle Eagles away from home tomorrow night. But Sunday is where you can watch them in action at home at the English Institute of Sport. 4 o'clock tip-off against Leicester. I highly recommend that as a bit of Sunday afternoon entertainment. Tickets on the door as always. Now, near to them, in close proximity, are the Sheffield Steelers in the ice hockey world. And they've been playing European competition this week. First phase of group matches, 2 wins, 1 loss for them. And that's a really good start to the season. No rest for the wicked, though. I tell you what, grueling schedule sees them up against Nottingham Panthers on Saturday. That is at home. It'll probably be a sellout, I am guessing. And then on Sunday, they're back in league action away at Guildford, which is I mean, no rest for them at all. Non-league football, give Sheffield FC a bit of support if you can this weekend. Frickley at home for them at the Coach and Horses, 3 o'clock. Bad results for the Foat, the first of all time as they're now calling themselves, and many others are as well. I think that's a really cool little nickname for them. Coach and Horses is a belt in place to go and watch football, as all three of us know, actually, on the programme. We've been to soak in a couple of games early season, it's got to be said, when the weather was a little bit warmer. Up at Sandygate, watching Hallam. They're flying, third in their league, always goals aplenty. 2-0 win away from home last weekend at Clipston, back at Sandygate this weekend against Teversall. And ending, for once, and I can't remember the last time we did this, Alan, on a proper Sheffield double. Wins for the Owls and the Blades on Tuesday night. The Owls, well, fantastic comeback win against the MK Dons. Lots of Owls fans I've spoken to have said that it's the best that they've seen it for years, and very exciting match it was as well. And the Blades away at Reading, 1-0 win, despite the horrible incident with John Fleck, and just so glad that he is at home recovering now, and we wish him all the very best. The Owls have Wickham on Saturday, and the Blades play against Bristol on Sunday, 12:30. Don't forget, Blades fans. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you, James, and indeed our very best wishes as well to the Sheffield United midfielder John Fleck for a full recovery. Sounds like he's doing well following that alarm in the game at Reading the other night. We'll find out in a few minutes' time whether he's as good as his word there about leaving a couple of pints in. Somehow I doubt it.
I suspect a negative there.
Me too. Yeah, -2 pints, but better than Derby County, minus whatever points it is. They're
21.
on 0 now. They're on 0.
Yeah.
-21 in total. And
demoralising that, though, isn't it?
You'd think so, and yet there's an element, I would have thought, of motivation from that. Can we do this?
Somebody saying yesterday that, but the difference, Sheffield Wednesday got their points, and you could see the spirit drain out of the team, out of the side. It was like shoulders slump.
But to his credit, Wayne Rooney's game
Derby
results.
have, like you said, they've used it as inspiration, haven't they? You know what? Let's
show them.
Let's stuff it down somebody's throat.
Great point at Fulham the other night.
Yeah.
I don't think it's impossible. I honestly don't. I think that they could surprise people and do it. And of course, Reading as well, struggling after a similar thing. But let's hope that football can get its acts in order. And sadly, it would seem like an independent regulator, as proposed by the government review, is the only way that it's possible. Because football's incapable of running itself. And we've talked about that in terms of the Sheffield clubs, haven't we, this evening?
Well, you can't govern yourself, can you? Because guess what? You start making rules up when they fit, as and when they fit. And that's what, as we've just said, that's what the Sheffield clubs have done, haven't they?
Well, I'll tell you what, to leave on a positive note, the Sheffield Wednesday owner cannot be faulted for the depth of his funding down there. And I would also say, in partial defence of Prince Abdullah, that not running Sheffield United into debt is not to be discredited in the way that the game is now. That he's not going to take the club in that route and doesn't maybe have the resources to kick it on himself. That in itself is not an element of shame, but let's hope that both of them can reach out to the public a bit more than they do. Ashley Greenwood, very best of luck with Sheffield City FC. It's great to see you. Good luck for that organisation. Looks like you're doing some superb work there. And as ever, for stepping into the breach, my man Jon Newsome. Well done, John. See you next week. Bye.